A golden retriever refused to leave the hospital room, where a stillborn baby lay motionless. The doctor said there was no hope, but what happened next left everyone speechless. Before you watch, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this one. And write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. The nurse's voice echoed through the hospital corridor as David burst through the emergency entrance. His golden retriever, Max, was pulling hard on the leash. "Sir, you cannot bring a dog in here," another nurse shouted, rushing toward them. But David didn't stop. His face was pale, his eyes red and swollen. "Please," he choked out. "Please, just let me—" "Security," the nurse called. David's legs nearly gave out. His whole world had just collapsed, and now they were going to throw him out. But to understand why a man would bring his dog into a hospital maternity ward, we need to go back earlier that morning. That morning, Max wouldn't leave Sarah's side. The golden retriever pressed against her legs in the kitchen, whining, a low, anxious sound David had never heard before. "Max, what's wrong with you?" Sarah asked, trying to move around him. But the dog planted himself in front of her, blocking her path. "David," Sarah called. "Max is acting really strange." David came downstairs. "Max, come here, boy." The dog didn't move. His eyes were locked on Sarah, his body tense. Then Sarah gasped, "David!" Her hand flew to her belly. Something's wrong. The pain hit her like a wave. She doubled over, crying out. Max barked, sharp, urgent, desperate. "Call 911. David yelled, rushing to Sarah's side. The ambulance arrived within minutes. As the paramedics loaded Sarah onto the stretcher, Max tried to follow. "Sir, the dog can't come," one of them said. "Max, stay," David commanded. But as the ambulance pulled away, Max howled, a sound so mournful it made David's chest ache. At the hospital, everything happened too fast. Doctors rushed Sarah into the delivery room. David waited outside, pacing and praying. An hour passed, then two. Finally, Dr. Chin emerged. Her face said everything. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hayes," she said quietly. "We did everything we could." The words hit David like a physical blow. "No," he whispered. "No, that's not." "There was a placental abruption," Dr. Chun continued gently. "Your son's heart stopped during delivery. We performed resuscitation for several minutes, compressions, oxygen, everything, but we got no response. His body temperature dropped critically low. I'm so sorry. We've done everything we could." David couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "Sarah?" he managed to ask. "She's stable physically. She'll recover," Dr. Chin said, her voice breaking. "I'm truly sorry." David stumbled into a room where Sarah lay, staring at the ceiling, tears streaming silently down her face. On a small table nearby, wrapped in a white blanket, was their son. So tiny, so still. David approached slowly, his hand shaking. He touched the blanket, and the coldness of it, the absence of warmth, made him sob. Sarah turned her face away, unable to look. They sat in silence for what felt like hours. Then David's phone buzzed. It was a neighbor. "David, I'm so sorry to bother you at a time like this. But Max, he's going crazy. He broke through the screen door. He's trying to get out. He won't stop howling. I don't know what to do." David closed his eyes. "Max." The dog knew. Somehow he knew. "I'll be right there," David said. When he got home, Max was at the door, pacing frantically. The moment he saw David, he ran toward the car. "Max, no." David said, "You can't." But the dog barked, insistent and desperate. David looked into Max's eyes. He'd never seen the golden retriever like this. "You want to come with me?" David asked, his voice breaking. Max barked again. David didn't know why he agreed, but 15 minutes later, he was walking through the hospital entrance with Max on a leash. Nurses started yelling, and security began approaching. "Please," David begged. "Please, just 5 minutes. My son—" His voice broke completely. The head nurse, an older woman named Margaret, stepped forward. She'd seen the devastation in parents' eyes before. "What room?" she asked quietly. 304, David whispered. Margaret looked at security. 5 minutes. she said. Then the dog has to go. David nearly collapsed with gratitude. He led Max down the hallway. The golden retriever wasn't pulling anymore. He walked with purpose, his nose working as if following a scent only he could detect. At room 304, David hesitated. Sarah's in there, he told Max, and our baby. He opened the door. Sarah looked up, her eyes widening. David, what? Max. The golden retriever walked straight past Sarah's bed. He went directly to the small table where the baby lay, wrapped in white blankets. Max's tail, which had been still, began to wag slowly. He sniffed the blanket. Then, very gently, very carefully, he nuzzled closer. Max, no! Sarah started, but David held up his hand. Wait! Max placed his head next to the baby's tiny body. His warm breath stirred the edge of the blanket. Then he did something that made both parents freeze. He licked the baby's face, gentle, tender. Then he whined, that same anxious sound from the morning. He nudged the baby with his nose. Once, twice. David, make him stop, Sarah whispered, tears streaming. Please. But David couldn't move. He watched as Max pressed his warm body against the baby, whining softly and continuously. 10 seconds passed. Nothing. 20 seconds. Still nothing. Max whined louder, nudging more insistently. 30 seconds. 40. David, Sarah sobbed. Then, a sound barely audible. A tiny gasp. Everyone in the room froze. Max's tail started wagging faster. Another sound, stronger this time. The baby's chest moved. Just barely, but it moved. Oh my God, Sarah breathed. Then a cry. Weak but unmistakable. Sarah screamed, her hand flying to her mouth. David. David lunged to the call button, slamming it repeatedly. The baby's cry grew stronger. Dr. Chin burst through the door, followed by 2 nurses. What's going? She stopped dead. The baby was crying and moving. That's impossible, Dr. Chin whispered, rushing forward. She grabbed her stethoscope with shaking hands and pressed it to the baby's chest. I have a heartbeat, she said, her voice trembling. Strong and steady. She checked the baby's vitals quickly, temperature rising, respiratory function normal. He's alive, she said, looking up at David and Sarah, her eyes wide with disbelief. The nurses stood frozen, staring. Max sat beside the table, his tail wagging, his tongue hanging out in what looked like a satisfied smile. Sarah was sobbing uncontrollably. Let me hold him. Please, let me hold him. Dr. Chin carefully lifted the baby and placed him in Sarah's arms. The baby's eyes opened just a crack, and he made a soft sound. Sarah clutched him to her chest, her whole body shaking. David dropped to his knees beside the bed, his hand on his son's tiny head, tears pouring down his face. Over the next hour, more doctors came. They ran tests and checked vitals. All the results came back normal, perfect even. Later that evening, Dr. Chin sat with David and Sarah, trying to explain what had happened. It's rare but not completely unheard of, she said carefully. There's a documented phenomenon called Lazarus syndrome. In very rare cases, spontaneous return to circulation can occur after resuscitation efforts have stopped. But you said there was no heartbeat, Sarah whispered. There wasn't one we could detect. But sometimes, especially in newborns, the heart can be in such a weak state that our equipment doesn't register it. When body temperature drops as low as your baby's did, it can slow everything down to near zero. She paused. The combination of the dog's body heat, raising his core temperature, and the physical stimulation from the nudging may have been enough to restart his system. I've read about cases where hypothermia patients were revived after appearing dead. The cold protects the brain, slows everything down, then warmth can bring them back. So it wasn't magic, David said. Dr. Chin smiled softly. Science and miracle aren't always opposites. The timing, the dog knowing to come, the exact combination of warmth and stimulation at the right moment, that part one can't explain. But your son is here. He's healthy, and that's what matters. They named him Liam, and Max never left his side. That night, after all the tests were done and Liam was sleeping peacefully in Sarah's arms, David sat on the floor next to Max. You knew, David whispered, scratching behind the dog's ears. You knew he wasn't really gone. You knew you could bring him back. Max licked David's hand, then rested his head on David's lap. "Thank you," David said, his voice breaking. "Thank you for not giving up when we did." 3 days later, they brought Liam home. Max walked beside the car seat, his body pressed close, protective. In the nursery, they set up Liam's crib, and right beside it, they placed Max's bed. The golden retriever never slept anywhere else. Every night, he would rest his head on the edge of the crib, watching and listening to every breath Liam took. As Liam grew, Max was always there, his guardian, his protector, his savior. The doctors called it Lazarus syndrome, a medical anomaly. But David and Sarah knew the truth. Max had refused to give up. When everyone else had accepted the impossible, when the doctors had called it, when hope was gone, Max had refused to believe it. And somehow, through warmth, through love, through sheer stubborn determination, he'd brought their son back. If you were the doctor, would you have let the dog into the hospital room? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.